Testing, testing. back. They're working is it?
I only learned
There's like a 20-second. Oh yeah, it works. The audio is out.
It does?
Yeah.
Hold on. No, the other one. Right here?
Yes.
Did you go to vendors? And then go remove that audio in for Okay, now double test, check again. Can you hear it?
And the thing is, sometimes you learn it and then you don't see it for a while. You forget it.
We're good. As long as you can hear it, right? Test 1, 2. Awesome. Okay, transition out.
Amelia. Find a spot today.
Switch over to
So
vendors.
excited to have you all here. So thanks for coming to our very first ever wheelchair boot camp. And we're very excited to have Bobby and Tristan to come out from National Seating and Mobility. My name is Jill, my pronouns are she and her, and I am an occupational therapist, clinical resource therapist with the VCH Long-Term Care and Assisted Living Professional Practice Team. And before we move into the content, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the traditional, unceded, and ancestral homelands of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam peoples. And for that, we are very, very mindful and grateful. Okay? So I'd love to introduce Tristan and Bobby from National Seating and Mobility. Today, I think you have a general idea about what we're here for today. It's mostly going to be practicing hands-on skills with tooling and wrenching when it comes to basic modifications and changes and adjustments to wheelchairs that you probably all do in your day-to-day work or could use a refresher on. Okay? So yeah, I will pass it on to you two.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah.
Bobby?
Yes, hi everyone, thank you so much for coming. I have a little bit about myself and National Seating and Mobility. I have been in the industry for about 15 years now. I have a kinesiology background. When I applied for a position at one of the local dealers, they threw me right into sales, and it was really, really scary. But I managed to find my way. I happened to work with Jill in the community way back when. And so I was a sales rep for 12 and a half years. I worked in Burnaby and Vancouver, mainly in the community. And I was lucky to be part of a dealer that did everything from basic wheelchairs that you're going to see today to complex rehab, sip and puff, head array, specialty control, custom seating, and recreational equipment like basketball chairs, cycling chairs, and all of that kind of fun stuff. So I have been lucky to have been work with some brilliant people around me. I've learned from the best. And so the company that I work for was able to teach me a wide variety of things. I had a small stint as a branch manager in Burnaby. And now, today, my new role, and I've been in this role for about a year now, and my title is Sales and Clinical Business Development for all of BC. And so what that means is that I take care of all the sales reps like Tristan, and together we collaborate. I'm in charge of hiring and onboarding, product training, in services like this, market development, and everything in between. So I'm happy that Jill had reached out, and so this is right up my alley, right up her alley. So we're super excited to be here. Tristan, welcome Tristan. Tristan has been in the game for about 12 years now. He has done everything in the industry. He was a sales assistant, he was a technician, he was a warehouse coordinator, and for the past 2 years, he is one of our community reps, and he works out of Burnaby. We have been working for some time together, so proud to say that Tristan's knowledge on equipment is vast. He specializes in complex rehab, recreational equipment, and it helps that he is very good at wrenching. And he's taught me some wrenching skills throughout the years. So we're super excited for the hands-on portion because we're all gonna get down and dirty. I know that some of you are on YouTube. I don't know how many of you, but hello. But I know some of you are coming from the North Shore and the Sunshine Coast. I'm so happy that you guys actually made the trek. That's a huge commitment, so I appreciate your time. National Seating and Mobility has been in BC for about 3 years now. And basically they came to Canada and they started to look for small mom and pop companies. So when I was a sales rep, some of you may know or remember a name called Advanced Mobility Products, maybe? Sort of, no, yeah. And another company that they bought was Self-Care Home Health. Okay, I'm getting some gut nods. So now we're all Big One family. So we are the largest dealer in BC. We have 12 locations in BC. We have 6 in the Lower Mainland. And we are the second largest company across Canada. So being as big as we are, that comes with a lot of resources coming to us. Of course, we have access to all the manufacturers that are here in Canada. And being a bigger company, that of course they want to work with us. So we have a really, really good relationship with Ocean Composites, Key Mobility, Sunrise, and many more. So we have to have a really good working relationship with them because we can't do it on our own. We don't have the space to carry all of this equipment all the time. So we have to have a really good partnership. And we want to make sure that when we are bringing equipment to you guys and to our clients, we want to make sure that we stand behind the products that we're bringing to you. So we have to make sure that our manufacturers are behind us on the service point of view. And we're only going to promote good quality products to our clients and to you guys. Being a bigger company as well, we have more resources. So for example, if our Vancouver branch is down, whether it's COVID or holidays, maybe we can shift labor from our Burnaby store and bring them to the Vancouver store. So it's business as usual, things like that. So we're constantly tag teaming that way. We share inventory equipment as well. And of course, having different levels of experience, we can call on one another if we don't know. And we don't know everything. But certainly we can call on one of our colleagues and they'll be like, yeah, I had a situation like that, try this. So that's quite helpful of being part of a bigger team. I think that's it for that introduction. Does anybody have any questions about NSM in general or? No? Okay, great. I'm gonna pass it over to Tristan and he's gonna take it over and I'll come back to you guys when it's hands-on.
Perfect.
Enjoy.
Thanks again for coming, everyone. I just want to put it out there. How many of you, when you were in OT school, actually worked on chairs or had a course where you actually got to break it apart, see what the chair does, or it's capable of? Nothing? No one? Did they at least give you one day at OT school before you graduated?
They don't really do that in OT school.
No.
If you're lucky to get a practicum where they do that, then yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much knowledge do we have in the room regarding prescribing or dealing with manual chairs, folding chairs, or power chairs? Not much?
No, I've done that.
You prescribe? Jill, did you want to speak to the basic wheelchair program on what these chairs were picked for basic wheelchair program?
I
So we
know
can
that's-
give some content to why.
Sure, yeah, so some of you are coming from a long-term care context, and that's where I kind of come in play here. And so these are the wheelchairs that are available through the long-term care VCH basic wheelchair program. So for some of you who are coming from home health or acute, it might not directly apply to you, but you might have a patient who is going into long-term care, in which case this is your chance to learn about the chairs that are available under that program as well. In addition to that nice red chair over there, which is the newest one in the option of chairs called the Key Mobility Cat 4E, and I'm sure Tristan will talk about that a little bit more. But that's why we chose these chairs today, is so that because my role is to provide focus on the basic wheelchair program. But the tooling and the wrenching that Tristan talks to, you'll be using it on these chairs, but it will apply to all the different wheelchairs that you work on generally. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So just to keep it open, there isn't a structured thing to this presentation. So if you guys have questions or there's something that you want to ask, you can raise your hand. We can go in that direction. Go ahead.
I have a question, just moving forward from a home health perspective. Will all the chairs and equipment that you speak about, are they ministry friendly as well?
These are also ministry friendly, yeah, and they also fall under the basic wheelchair program.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with the QX. So this is one of your basic wheelchair program chairs. It's a folding chair. The interesting thing about this chair is the place that it has here. So one of the attributes that you lose when you have a folding chair is that you put a lot of energy into using the chair to propel you forward, and it's lost through all the moving parts that you see in this chair here. So the manufacturers have come up with, the engineers, the manufacturers have come up with this thing. They're trying to make it as rigid as possible, but also as flexible for the care workers to be able to work on them or to put people, different people in the same chair. So one of the things they did to try and mimic, ideally what you would want is a rigid chair. What they tried to do to mimic that is they put these double cross braces that you see down here. And you'll see that most of these chairs all have the same attributes to them. All of these folding chairs have the same attributes. It's kind of like comparing a Honda to a Toyota to a Nissan entry-level cars. They all have the same kind of specs to them. They almost look identical to each other. So they do this to make it a little more rigid. The other thing that they add is the seat sling here. So you see that the seat sling is a little bit pliable, so it adds a little bit of submersion to it. You don't want too much submersion because that can give you the wrong offloading for the with cushion that you get, because they will start to buckle on under you. The other thing that they have is the footrests that come out easily and are easily adjustable. And same with the wheels. You can look at the wheels here. They make it easy, so if maintenance has to take them out and change a tube, you can also get these with solid tires, which are more recommended if you're in a facility because they have less maintenance and less chances of getting punctured and having a wheelchair that's down. And then you have the side arms that flip out of the way in case you have to do cleaning, or if you need to do a side transfer, or you need to put them in a sling to lift them up and put them back in the bed. And then the other thing that they come with, since they have to fold, is you see none of these have a rigid back. So these all have a tension adjustable back in different breathable materials, so that it folds easily with the chair, so you don't have to pull the back off to then fold the chair. And that's the QX. And one of the things, the best thing that you'll notice about these chairs is that they're all relatively lightweight. They used to be, I don't know if anybody's been in the industry long enough that remember the Breezy 600s. And those things were like tanks. They would never break, but I don't know how the caretakers would move around in those things because they were just so heavy. So they made them a lot lighter. You guys all have forms in there, brochures on specs and stuff. When you're working with a rep, we have so many chairs in our mind that it's hard when we say, oh, what width can this do this? What size can we do this at? The best resources that you could have as a rep and as an OT is going to the vendor's website, because specs change, specs sometimes are a little different and you remember them differently. So if you were to call me and say, well, what can we get this chair down to? Off the top of my head, I wouldn't know. Ideally, you'd want that person to go back and actually get your information. So if you needed a 14-14, I wouldn't be able to do it in this chair. This chair doesn't go down to a 14, but the QX does. So if you have someone that's big but really short, you'd be looking at something like this to get them in. So a good resource is your vendor website that has the actual specs, the actual modifications you can do. They have a matrix, which is really great. So if you want to do a seat to floor height that's different, you can actually see if it's actually doable in that matrix before you order the chair, before you even demo the chair, and you waste a lot of time. You say, okay, I want the chair to do this, and we go, okay, let's do it. And we bring it up, we're like, oh, the chair can't go down to a 14-14 seat to floor height, which references the distance from the top of the sling here, the seat sling, to the floor, when I mean seat to floor height. Does everybody understand the basic terms about seat to floor height and stuff? Do you want me to explain that, or is that too basic? I don't want to dumb it down too much and you guys are just rolling your eyes like, we're not that dumb. Do I need to mention all the acronyms, or are you guys good with that? You good? Good. Mention them?
If there's something we don't know, we'll ask.
Perfect, that's great. Sorry, give me 1 sec here. So that one. You guys want to follow your move sheet? So let me just reference, Quickie is a product that comes, this chair comes out of San Francisco down in California. So the lead time to get a chair from them right now is about 2.5 weeks if you order black. And most of them, you see the shiny red one is the same thing. The basic program doesn't usually cover color. Some of them have color upcharges that we have to look at the order forms. But they have these quick ships, and the quick ships are all black chairs. So if you want it fast and you need it tomorrow, you need to get it in black. So this one comes out of San Francisco. The Move that we're going to talk about next, here, this one comes out of Montreal, out of Quebec. And as you see, it has kind of like the same attributes as the QX. They use a different brace system than the QX. They have a double bar. This has a dual bar here. They're all ideally the same in the way that they operate. This one here that you'll see has all the chairs that you'll see here. Let me backtrack just a little bit. They've all been made to be a little wonky because you guys are going to be fixing them later. So I can't right now. I was like, oh, I can't put the brake down. I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to get you guys to work on. So this one has extension handles. So this would be something that you would get for a client that has like a hand dexterity or they have limited strength in their arms.
Kristen,
Yes.
do you mind behind the chair so this side can see?
I'm sorry, am I hiding the chair? Okay, here we go. So this one has brake extensions here. Wheel lock extensions. This is for someone that doesn't have a lot of force in their hands or they can't really close their hands to use the brakes. You notice that one doesn't have them. This one also has solid wheels. So this allows you, especially if you're in a facility, to be able to propel further with less force, less energy, because of the rolling resistance you have with the tires. Now, if you guys all look at the front casters, what do you guys notice differently between the three chairs with the front casters? The forks? Yeah?
The size of the wheel?
The size of the wheel, right? The width of the wheel? Okay, so when you're ordering the chair, you also want to be mindful of this, the width of the wheel. Having a narrow wheel can cause issues, especially if the client's going outside, getting caught in crevices or turning, and so you'd want to get a softer roll, a wider wheel, so that they have more stability over cracks and clearings. If they're in a facility, a wheel like that one, which is about 1 inch, I think there's 1.5 inches, doesn't make much of a difference. It makes it a little easier because what you do is increase rolling resistance in this. So as you increase rolling resistance, to make it more stable for you, you also increase the amount of force you need to push the wheelchair forward. Is there any questions so far? No?
I have one.
Yes.
For the caster wheels, if you want to change, do you have to order the fork as well, or just the wheel? Is it a universal size, the caster forks?
That's a good question. The forks are usually a standard width, and most of our wheels actually fit within the gap of the fork here. So depending on the wheel that you pick, there's something that we call spacers, which this one has right here. If everyone can see this, this chair has 2 spacers on either side, so it allows it to roll freely. So depending, this caster here requires 2 of the spacers because of the gap, but this caster here actually has the 2 little spacers already integrated into the wheel. So this distance here is relatively the same on all the forks that you get within this range of wheelchairs. So, and this is the new Cat 4E that Jules talked about. So this one was red because it was ordered for a client that loves red, and in our stock, a lot of times we put out chairs that are a little shinier. It's more pleasing to the clients when they're trying something out that's a little more uplifting than just a black chair. And as you can see, does anybody see anything really wrong with this chair? Someone mentioned it earlier, they were just talking. It has an interior tilt, yeah. So we intentionally did that to see if you guys could fix that later. So this chair and the move both have a ship time of about 2 weeks. So most of the vendors, they've all gotten on board with these chairs at this level of ship time, cost, everything else. So if you look at these two chairs, they're about $14.95, $14.35. It's in your package there. The one that's a little bit more is the QX, which is $19.32 or something. Now, a lot of times these numbers really don't mean anything because they can change tomorrow, and it's kind of looking it up on the website at the time that you're ordering is always better because then you get the exact pricing. So ship time for these two is about 2 weeks if you need to get this for your client. And this one also has the dual cross brace to try and mimic right here. If you see this dual cross brace, they're mimicking the rigidity of a rigid chair so that it makes it more efficient with your propelling and everything else. And Key Mobility is out of Alberta, right? Is that where?
I believe it's
Or,
Ontario.
Ontario, yeah. So the first thing that you need to do when you're looking at the chairs for the client is you have to figure out how big is the client, what their needs are. And that will determine which of the chairs that you pick. How tall are they? Are they going to be foot propelling? Are they going to be pushed around all the time? And if you see, some of them have push handles, some of them don't. So once you figure out all the necessities of the client, then we start breaking down the chair, and you go to the rep. I said I have a client that's, let's say it's Bobby's size. She's 5'7", 120 pounds. She's she's active. She's gonna be foot propelling. You start measuring we take all the measurements of the wheelchair, and from there, then we start sizing the wheelchair up. If you're gonna be a foot propeller, you bring it down so that. Do we need to talk about knee to floor, all that stuff? Do we know about that? Or?
That would be helpful because oftentimes for patients who are coming out of acute and into long-term care, one big common thing that happens is people don't wear shoes in the hospital, right? They're just wearing socks. But then when they get to long-term care, they're wearing shoes. And so that is a good something to consider when measuring for knee to floor height as well, because considering what will they be doing and what will they be wearing when they get to long-term care or wherever they end up, and then also will they be foot propelling or not. So that will be, those will both be factors. Yeah.
Okay. So if we start from the bottom up, when you measure the distance, one good thing to have in your toolbox, we'll go through the tools in a second, is a solid tape measure. We tend to give out the little tape measures that bend and stuff. They don't give you as an accurate measurement as a solid tape measure would when you're actually taking those measurements, measuring from the bottom down to the inside of the knee, to then figure out which height you're going to set the chair at. And then you have to take into consideration which cushion you're going to put on there. And then here's the other thing, it's the measurement you take should be a measurement that's a starting point. It's not going to be the set size you're going to have, because if you see different people, if they sit in this cushion, they submerge into it differently through the range of weights and stuff, because this has a weight of up to 250, right? So each person submerges into the chair differently, and then you have to do your adjustments. So that's your starting point, your measurement, right? And then you have the shoes that Joe mentioned, and you also have the client who has their own input. You have clients that want to sit a little lower because they feel like they need to have more contact on the floor. Some people just want to do the tippy toe touch, and they weigh into their own chair on what they want. So we start by measuring that, and from here, we start measuring. So if you need this to be higher, we would need to, let's take the QX, because that's probably a better chair to look at to adjust, because this one has limited abilities to change here. So you have your front fork. So Jill says I want to, so this one's going to need to have a seat to floor height of 16 inches, right? So right now, I can clearly tell you that we're probably out a little bit. The measurement is usually taken, to rightfully take the measurement, you take it from the floor and you measure it to the top of the solid piece of bar here on the inside of the seat slit. And the reason you do that is because you can see, depending on how old the chair is and how new it is, there's some give to the seat sling. Oh, sorry, I got my back to you guys. Let me pull you up here. So let me show you that again. So you take the measurement from the floor to the top of the crossbar right here where the seat sling gets attached to. And like I was saying, the reason you do this is you have a little give here. As you have the chair out in the community more and more, this becomes a little looser, right? And depending on the weight of the client, they push it down. So you'll be getting a false measurement if you measure from here than if you measure from this distance. So having said that, we said it was 17. You would need to adjust it through the front forks. So you could do two things. You could either swap the wheel out, put a smaller wheel on, or you could loosen the two bolts on either side and push them into the notch that you need to get it down to that size. So I'll show you what that looks like. I won't actually work, that's something you guys are gonna do. Maybe we should cover tools, right? Okay, so a basic tool set that you would want to have is like a small metric set of wrenches, which ranges usually between the size 8 to about size 14 or 16. Because most of these chairs are all now being made in metric measurements. And then you also want to get your standards, which are your 5/16 and ½ inch and stuff. It's really important to know which bolt you're taking it off, because if you put the wrong wrench on the wrong bolt, even though it feels like it's working, you can end up rounding the bolt or stripping the bolt. Same with your Allen keys. The other thing that's good to have is a good set of Allen keys. So one common missed size is your, let me show you here. Is your 5 mil and your 3/16. No, they look almost identical, as you can see. So this is a 3/16, this is a 5 mil. So the 5 mil is just a little bit bigger than the 3/16, but you can still put a 3/16 and a 5 mil bolt. But if you're going to turn it, you're going to notice that it has a little give in it. So when you're tightening it or putting it in there, if you notice that you have a little bit of turn like this, before you can actually get the bolt to start turning, then you're using the wrong tool. And what you're going to end up doing is stripping it. Eventually it'll become unusable, and what you'll have to do is get a tech to come out with a drill and drill up the bolt, take it out. So these tools, they don't cost a lot of money to have. You can get them at Canadian Tire. I think that the Allen keys are about $16 when they're on sale. And same with the wrenches. You can get a set of wrenches for about $10, $15. Don't ever buy tools at Canadian Tire that are not on sale, because you usually can get them quite cheap when they do go on sale. I'm doing all the talking here. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got a question about, because this chair can be used in our community and also in acute, and how weatherproof they are. Like raining days in Vancouver or in a hospital, every day we got about 14 chairs need to be washed by housekeeping. And when we need to change or assemble your tilt chair, you can see a disgusting water coming out from the chair. So I mean, for this kind of things,
Yeah.
will be more water resistant, or be no difference with the one we had now?
Well, these are all pretty water resistant. Are you talking about when you get them back from us, from the basic wheelchair program?
Oh no, I'm working in landscape hospital. It's in IQ, so
Yeah.
we have your whole huge, not huge, just your wheelchair room downstairs. We got a dirty wheelchair room, so the housekeeping will wash them,
Yeah.
dirty wheelchair, and we are one to, when they're dry, we try to change according to OT's request. But when we try to change, like I said, when we open something and see your tilt chair, dirty water flushing all our body or everywhere, is so disgusting. So is
Yeah.
any new chair have some improvement on that part?
Well, they're all mostly waterproof. Under the wheelchair basic program, our store in Vancouver actually has, I don't know if you guys ever seen it, it's a big size kind of like wheelchair dishwasher. And the chair
Ooh.
gets stripped and
Wow.
you put it in there, and it
Wow.
gets clean and it gets sanitized. And sometimes, because you get water all over the place, it's kind of like when you open up your dishwasher and you grab a plate or a cup that has that little groove in the bottom and has the water on top and it spills out. These will do the same thing. For water resistant, they're all pretty water resistant. They're meant to be outside. They're meant to be used in daily community stuff. So you might get a little bit of water. It's just that either what has happened is that someone's taken the cap off on one of these,
Yeah.
and water's gone trapped in there, and when you move it out,
Yes.
that's where the water comes out of, which just means that if you have something like that, you can call us and say, hey, this chair, see like this one here right now, it's coming out because it's been used quite a bit. So if this is we're out and you put it in the sanitizer in your hospital or your pressure washer, like a lot of times our machines don't work, we take them outside with soap and water pressure washer, we pressure wash and leave them outside to dry, water will get in there.
Yeah.
So if you're missing something like that, all you have to do is call us and say, hey, this footrest or this chair is missing these caps, and that's part of our maintenance. So if you point that out to us, the tech will also see that when they go out and they can make the adjustments so that you don't get water in there.
Nice.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, and how long is the warranty? It'd be 50 years or?
50 years?
Because that's how all the chairs are at Lionsgate.
Yeah. So these three chairs, I think they have a lifetime warranty on manufacture. Like if the frame were to crack because it was welded incorrectly, you have. But other than that, I think they're 2 years, Bobby, on the chairs from normal wear and tear. But if there's a weld spot that has come off because someone didn't weld it properly at the factory, you got a lifetime warranty on that part of the chair.
Just to add to that, so warranty, it depends on funding, it depends on the manufacturer. So for example, as Tristan was saying, the cross brace itself, the main guts of the chair, it could have a lifetime warranty, but tires may only have 6 months.
Yeah.
The brakes, all of those sort of, the hand rims might only have 3 months, for example. And it varies between every manufacturer. So if in doubt, call us as the vendor, we will look it up specifically. And just to touch base on the water, I know what you're talking about as a sales rep. You know, it's like anything, it's like our clothes. I'm probably going to have to wash this after, and then I'm going to dry it. So every piece of equipment, just like our own personal stuff, requires some type of maintenance. So a quick wipe down, whether it's dust, whether it's mud, whether it's water, insure, all that kind of stuff. The quicker we can take it off, the better it is for the longevity of that chair. Imagine insure sitting on the seat sling for months and months and months, which we have seen. We're gonna put this into the dishwasher, wheelchair dishwasher, but it can only do so much because it's been caked on for months and months and months. So the more regular our staff can clean it, the better, just like anything else.
Okay, thank you.
Question, do you sell the caps separately? Can it be bought separately, the caps for the?
Yeah, all the parts you can buy separately. There's the on-chair wheelchair pricing, and then there's the off-chair pricing that we have a list of all the different little parts that you can get to basically re-put the chair together.
Okay.
So we would have to go out there, assess the issue, and then figure out what parts it needs, and then submit a quote to you guys or funding and see who's willing to pay for it or how that works.
One thing we're trying to implement is efficiency. And we all have these little computers in our pockets, right?
Yeah.
And so to increase that efficiency, we are asking you guys if there is that capability to help us with it. So instead of calling us and say, hey, we need you to check this out, maybe if you're right there, it's a quick pick.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little FaceTime. And so that can speed up tremendously the process. And so, in time and with the confidence from you guys that we can work together, we're certainly going to be asking you guys to use the technology to help us to quickly speed things up.
Yeah, and in the same aspect that you're saying to be more efficient, that's why we're going to teach you guys simple little things like, I know sometimes you guys get annoyed, you call the office and say, I need someone to come and adjust a brake, and they say it's going to be a week because the techs are either swamped or they just don't have the resources to get out fast enough. And when you look at what we're going to show you, it's literally like anybody with the Allen keys or some wrenches can do literally in 5 minutes. So it takes you longer to actually make that phone call. If you notice that this brake's a little loose, then if you have your little toolkit and you pop the wheel out and then you just, we'll go over it, but you just adjust the brake yourself. It literally takes 2 seconds, you line it up, you make sure it works, we'll go through that. And that saves you a phone call and frustration and the client complaining. that their chair, they can't lock their wheels to get up to go to bed or to do a toilet transfer or stuff like that.
And safety.
Yeah, ASAP. So we were talking about the caster wheels. So these ones here, and it's not something you need to know, but this one takes a 13 mil wrench. So you take one on both sides, and what you do is you have these holes, and each of these holes, depending on the manufacturer, has different increments. So these are 1/2 inch increments. So if you were lowering this chair by 1 inch, you'd have to bring it up 2 increments, right? And that's it. And this is really interesting. It's like you could pull it down, and you give the client a couple of days to try it out. They say, because most of the time they'll sit in it and they say, oh, it's fantastic. But it's not fantastic until they've had it for a day or two, that they've actually used it, that they actually get to say, you know what, I'd like it to be a little bit higher or a little bit lower. And we have that capability with these forks to be able to raise it between. So if we said 16, he wanted 15.5 and go to there, or we can go to 16.5 and play with that, depending on, he's not going to use the shoes anymore, he's just going to use his bare feet or his sandals. You got the adjustment to be able to do that.
Tristan, just keeping track of time, it's going by super quick.
Yeah.
We only have 45 minutes
Okay,
left.
yeah. And so here, that brings me to, so let's say that they're not foot propelling, and that they're using the footrest. So the footrest do the same thing. So you measure in the same aspect that you would from the seat to the top of the sling, except you measure from the top of the footrest. One of the things you want to be mindful of when you decide the height of the footrest is that that when you put the client in it, that you're measuring. You got 2 measurements. You can do it through your tape measure or also your hand. So one of the things that we like to do, I do as a sales rep when I go out there with the OT, is we sit them in there, we let them submerge into the cushion, and we wait a few minutes because it takes a little while to warm up the foam and the polymers are in here to actually get you submerged properly. And then what we do is we feel underneath the femur, and you basically want to be able to slide your hand so that it's not putting a lot of pressure. So from that, you would then know where to adjust the foot plate here. So one is your measurement, which is your starting point, and then you actually feel it. If you have too much pressure, it means you have to bring it up a little bit. If you have no pressure, you have to bring it down, because you could do 2 things. If I have the foot too high up, what I'm doing is I'm offloading the femur, not putting any support down the side, and I'm putting all the pressure on their ITs. In a couple of days, they're going to have some red bumps on their ITs there because you've put too much pressure, because they're now sitting pushed back into the chair. So that is adjusted through the Allen key through here. So there's a little Allen key here that allows you to lower and raise it to adjust that. And you do the field test again. Kind of like when you do a rojo. You put the rojo on, you inflate it, then you see if you got that little gap to make sure that they're not bottoming out, but you don't want them too inflated because then they're just floating on air and it's not really doing the offloading that the rojo is supposed to do. Everyone knows what a rojo is, right? Okay. So one of the most important things that you have in the chair for safety is having your wheel locks. A lot of people call them brakes. These are not brakes, they're wheel locks. They're supposed to lock the wheel so you can stand up and do a pivot transfer or have a sling put under you so they can lift the sling up and put you into bed. And it all depends on the strength and the hand dexterity that the client has. You want to have a smooth clicking wheel lock. So that, let me bring it forward this way, is adjusted through right here. So these 2 little bolts get screwed down, and then ideally, if you want to get scientific, if there's scientific people, you can measure from the end of the wheel lock to the center of the axle release, and then you divide that by the dimension of the wheel, and you can get precisely where it would lock here. Now, when you're adjusting the wheel locks, you got 2 things to consider, whether it's a pneumatic tire or a solid tire. If you're working with a pneumatic tire, before you work on the brakes, make sure that you pump the tires up, that the tires are pumped up to the specified pressure on the sidewall. Because what's going to happen is you're going to adjust the wheel locks, and then you're going to pump the tire up, and you're going to find either it's too hard or it's too loose. So you tighten that up first. You pump up the tire first, then you slide this and you tighten it. And so what basically you want to do is, you don't want to just wrench right into the tire. You want enough just to lock it so that it doesn't move. right? It doesn't have to be, and it has to be quite easy for you guys to be able to do. The other adjustment that you have on the chair is the armrests here that go up and down. Depending on the chair, they have little levers on the side that click up and down, and that adjusts the heights for the arms to be able to rest on the chair properly, so you don't push the shoulders up.
One thing I'll add is that the manufacturers are making it easier for us as we go along. For example, some of the, not to say that we're all symmetrical, but let's say I am. Some of the manufacturers are putting little lines there
Yeah.
in 1 inch increments and half-inch increments, so that if you have somebody that is symmetrical, you can just follow those lines. I love those lines. And then there's the manufacturers you don't, and you can see one is off a little bit, and it drives me crazy. So they are picking up on what we are telling them, and they're listening to our feedback. So little things like that, like the little lines, make our job so much more easier.
Yeah. Thanks, Bobby. And then the other thing you want to consider is the center of gravity of the chair. So depending on where the client sits, you would ideally want an 80% of the body weight to be over the back wheels. And depending as well as the cognitivity of the client and what you're working with, you can either push them a little further back or forward. So the more weight you have over the back wheels, the easier it is to propel forward. But if you go over that 80%, it also makes the chair too tippy, so they can tip back onto their anti-tippers, or if they didn't have any, they just roll right over. If you have the wheel too far back, you make it really hard for them to be able to propel forward. They'll be like struggling with, why is it so hard for me to get from my room to the kitchen or to the dining room to eat? And different chairs have different adjustments. This one doesn't have that ability to move it over. Those two chairs do. And that's one of the things you can see when you see the spec sheets when you're ordering the chair. You can look at the 3 chairs and say, okay, well, I need it to be able to adjust this center of gravity, so it's important that the chair has that. So then you would pick one of the chairs that actually allows you to adjust it, and that's by sliding the bar forward. If this one had 2 holes here, you'll be able to slide it forward. In a compromise, sometimes what we do is we go beyond the specs of. One of the things that Bobby didn't mention is that a lot of the stuff that we used to do in advance is stuff that didn't even exist. So just to make it work. So here, if you were in a bind and we needed something right away and they were having issues, since this is not manufactured to do that, we would take out the bolts and move this forward, put the 2 bolts here and clamp it in, and you'd have your center of gravity adjusted forward. Not recommended, and that would be a temporary solution, but it's a quick fix. The other 2 chairs that you see behind me that you can slide forward actually are intended for that. So you can actually slide this chair, as you can see the difference. This one here has the holes already pre-drilled that you can move the center of gravity almost 3 inches forward and back. The other settings that you see here, this adjusts your rear seat to floor height. So you got your front seat to floor height and you got your rear. So this one obviously has the rear set to floor height offsetted from this. So that's why you see the anterior tilt. So when you guys get into groups, when you get into little groups, and you guys are going to be wrenching on this, you're going to figure out with the scenario that you have on the chair on what you need to do. So to lower the center of gravity, the seat to floor height on this, you have a lug nut right here. This lug nut serves 2 purposes. It serves the purpose for setting the wheel, but it also has a spacer. So depending on where we put this, I'm not even able to see this in the room. This lug nut, if you once you loosen it, you pull it in. You can offset the wheel so it goes in and out more. So if the clients complain that they can't get into tight spaces or they're having issues getting into their bathroom or up close to the bathroom, it's a simple adjustment of loosening the lug nut and rotating this in. So you bring the wheel in just enough so you don't catch the side of the side guard. And you would do that with a wrench. Ideally, you would use a wrench or use what we call an adjustable crescent wrench. I recommend not using this because this ends up stripping everything. Yeah. So this, unfortunately, is a 1 inch, so it's hard to get that. I don't think many OTs are going to have a 1 inch wrench in their back pocket. So they have these. So this is just something you would use in case you have nothing else to use. How are we doing for time? We're good?
It's going by real quick.
Should we get into groups and we could walk over?
I think so, yeah.
All right.
So, one question about your backrest. Are you setting your general backrest? Because sometimes we need a wheelchair, manual chair to have a contour. backrest. But we found so many different kind of contour backrest. It's not fitting to a chair we want to. Do you have the general applied contour backrest we can attach to different kind of manual chairs easily?
Is this for the basic wheelchair program you're referring to? Or?
No.
No? And so,
Just general.
So your question is to be able to attach a rigid back on these?
Yeah, it's like a contour.
Yeah, so all of these, as you see them, they're part of the basic wheelchair program, so they don't come with a contour back. They come with an adjustable back, like you see right here.
Yeah.
So it's not contoured, but it gets as close as you can. By loosening these straps and having the client sit back, you can tighten these straps so it kind of molds to their back. They got some scoliosis or something in their back that you need to accommodate, so they offset the whole pressure point down the whole side of their back. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, do you have the advanced option? We can attach
Yeah,
to
these
it?
all have the option. So these have little screws here that they pop out, and then you can mount any rigid back that you want on here.
Okay.
On any of these chairs. That's how modular, they were meant to be modular and be able to do that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, any of these chairs, the way that they're set up, doesn't mean that this is what it
Yeah.
is. For example, these are full-length armrests. We could, of course, put
That's right,
short
yeah.
and wide. We can use gel.
Yeah.
These are, let's say, 70-degree foot plates. Of course, if this doesn't work, we can add 90. These are just examples of what the chair can be, but it's not, but there's many, many configurations.
So one thing I want to cover as well is we were talking about the footrest here. Ideally, you do not want to go any lower than 2 inches on your footrest, because if you go outside and you hit a speed bump or there's an obstacle, it's just going to launch the person that's in the chair out of the chair. So that's something you want to keep in mind. So if you need to go longer, what it means is that you need to raise the seat to floor height on the chair or get a bigger frame for that client because their legs are too long, and you would modify that through here. But this, you also want to keep in mind that anything lower than 2, you're putting that risk for being ejected from the chair.
So what about the fact that you have a foot propeller, but they need the footrest so that their family member can take them outside?
Yeah,
Then you often run into
that's
a
a great
situation,
question.
unless you can get something that's maybe 60 degrees or something.
So that's what I was just going to say. So usually you get footrests that come out a little bit more depending on the degrees, so that they give, if they have long legs, you have initially, you have a 60, a 70, and 80 that you can have them come out this way so that their feet splay out this way more as opposed to straight down.
And each of those particular brands has the same
Yeah, so
option?
if we look at the order form, we could probably see what that comes with, see what kind of footrest you can get with them.
And would that be part of the basic wheelchair program that we could get? that
Yeah,
we could
so
get?
everything that you see on that order form,
Yeah.
other than if you go through colors or upcharges. So the idea of the basic wheelchair program is that it's basic for mobility. So the 60-degree hangers, you have to check to see if there's an upcharge on that, if they have those long legs.
Yeah, so
Right.
Tristan's right. If under the basic wheelchair program, if you need like 60-degree hangers, for example, just call when NSM takes over, then call Karen, put that on the prescription form, and then see what they say. It should not be an upcharge though under the basic wheelchair program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same.
Because they look like they're all the same
anyways.
price, 60,
Yeah.
70, 90.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, all right, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
same with the
Break up into
motion,
groups and things.
Yeah, why not?
Then move into that part because we have about
same price.
35 minutes.
60 or
Sure.
70.
All right, so why don't we get into groups?
Because that's-
We've got scenarios here, and we'll walk around and help you with those.
So how many people would you like per group? There's 3 chairs, so divide into 3. Is that right?
Yeah.
And did you guys bring your tools? Do some of you guys have tools?
Yeah, I got some, but I don't have the
Okay. We have some tools, so we're gonna ask you to break up into 3 equal groups. On each chair, there's a scenario. You can see that these chairs are built wonky. We're gonna ask you to go through each single one, and then we're gonna go around and make sure that you guys are doing it right, okay? So 3 equal groups, and hopefully at least one of you guys have some tools in there. And if not, you can borrow some of ours. Yeah? Okay, you have some. And then he has some, is it? Okay, so Katie, good, you have some keys. We're gonna be adjusting.
Okay, so the second group, if you want to take on this chair, how about you guys here?
You can go with maybe Brent here.
And then the third group can take this chair on. You guys want to do it here?
Oh, no.
Okay, so the scenarios are here, so we're gonna ask you guys.
Down the bottom.
There's the red.
He's got the scenario here. Do you need to borrow tools? Yeah. The four of us will go together. I'm gonna go over scenarios. Okay, perfect. Okay, I think C will be in there, so we'll make it for 5. Yeah, I think that's. Or actually, what, you know what? Could you try this right here?
Thank you.
Yeah.
There we
They're
go.
only
That
at
makes
different
3,
times.
4. I'll be right there.
We're
You guys see the,
gonna ask you to take a sit with that.
What are we asked to do?
Oh, we're asking to measure it, okay, I
What
got
do we
it.
have to
We have to measure.
Have
you guys done this before?
And write it down on the sheet, please.
No.
I've done it a lot. Okay, so you have to measure the seat width and then your hands.
Go ahead, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's take this on.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
I don't have to check that.
You need to be measured.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
There you go.
There's 17. So are you measuring, well, hold on, do you measure from the outer,
Yeah, outer tube to outer tube.
Yeah, well, it's more than 17, it's probably considered an 18.
This is a seat.
I bet you it's considered an
But when
18.
we measure, you measure the outside of your.
That's what I was gonna say, is it clicked all the way down?
There you go.
I bet you that's considered an 18, yeah.
Looks like it.
18. Depth.
Depth,
Go
18.
from the tip, back came height.
I'll let you guys do it first and then.
So I would say, well, I don't know, where do you measure to?
Right to the
Right
top
here?
of the
So
cane, yeah.
23, 20, 22, I'd say 22.
22 or 23?
I would say, well, here, if you, well, I think it's 22.
You can, you don't have to.
Yeah.
When you use it by the field, so you put it in.
Seat to floor, all three.
Yeah, 21.
What's the caster size?
20 to
So
30.
the caster size. Oh, no, front one, the caster size.
Caster size, I think
Yeah.
that's 5 inch.
You measure
Or is it 5 inch?
And if these.
That looks like it.
Yeah, I'd say it's 5
How
inch.
about?
Sorry. Let's just check that again.
Right there.
back came,
Yeah.
it's from here to the top of
Huh?
here.
Oh,
That's what I thought
Yeah, I would say 5.
too.
5 inch. Where would you have measured that, Robin?
I would have measured to here.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it's measured to here.
Then the
So this is the
rear, back wheel.
And the rear wheel is this. I could have gone like this, and if you measure from here to here, that's not.
So you're measuring
And as she mentioned, you can also bring it
Here is
back.
actually
I mean, one way to do it is see that the axle's at 11, so it's 22, I would
Oh,
think.
yeah.
To get more strength when you hold it like this, because of the torque you can apply as opposed to here.
Yeah, we have to
Usually
tighten
you
the
don't have
back. Usually room. It wouldn't.
Yeah, because look at this one. Is that one working?
That's too tight.
Too tight. Okay.
We have an Allen key.
Unfortunately, I don't have any Allen keys.
Okay, let me.
We need an Allen key.
So
Size
this
we need.
one.
You need Allen key? I think so. Not the floor, sorry. I think it has to be C10.
Okay, you can go in there.
Allen, yeah, okay.
Actually, I agree, but
Are they metric or are they,
Oh,
does it still need to be
I think
metric?
they're
I need, I'm not sure.
All metric are on this side.
Switch.
Gonna make a mess of
Switch the view.
Here we go.
Okay. So go ahead.
And I've never done this, so
Do you
there you
want me to
go.
show you on the
No,
first
no,
one?
you do it. No, you do it.
Depending on.
So that was, that one was okay. So, you can try doing it off.
Yeah, you need to move the wheel?
No, because you're doing to this part.
Seat it right, try to get a straight edge on
Loosen
there,
this.
and whatever that is the back and height.
Yeah, these are all metric.
Come on.
Yeah,
And then you move this back.
Oh, just slide it back.
And they're
Yeah.
usually 70% off, so that's what I'm saying.
Sometimes it
They're
takes a bit of playing around to get it just the right distance.
It's all metric.
Yeah, so metric,
You said like from 5 to 11 or 5 to 15?
5 to 14, but you get the whole range, and they start down.
My job when Serena does this is, Robin, can you hold this still?
Might be a little too tight. Oh, look at that.
You usually find that on the sidewalk. If you look at the sidewalk.
Reading all the tire?
Yeah.
Well done.
probably a little loose still.
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you want to do the other one?
This one you're doing too?
Yeah.
Too tight.
It's too tight.
So first move this. So you have access to this.
Take the wheel off.
Yeah, you could probably take the wheel off too.
Oh yeah, but then I wouldn't know how.
But it's so
You can loosen it up.
So yeah, loosen it first.
So do I measure from tip to tip?
Kind of just
Is this the right size?
24.
don't loosen it so it's completely off. Yeah.
Yeah, but these.
So then move it forward. So then you can put the wheel back on so you can figure out where to put
Really
it.
good troubleshooting here, so good if you can set it off. There are measurements here, but this is
These
one
ones are the ones that you want to
it's
So
actually
push this while you do it.
Oh, okay.
Because it like you out. I'm gonna show you. So it releases this little pin.
Oh yeah, okay.
So it's able to go in. It's kind of like a braking system.
There you go. It's a code.
So now,
So, you did it right, from edge to edge. Now, as you guys know, as you may know, there are 20-inch, 22-inch, 24. You're not going to have a 20.5-inch. Now, you might measure it that way, but when we call it and write it on paper, it's only solid numbers. Another thing to consider is that this is like a sports tire, so there's very little tread. So you might have a measurement that is like, let's say for example, it was 23.5. But it's actually considered 24 because it's just a low profile tire. You guys may have seen tires that have, like a mountain bike. You know the mountain bikes, they have big things like that. That might measure 24.25. But really it's measured, you go back and it measures 24. Right on.
So that was 20.
that was 24. Yeah.
Okay, you got that down.
Okay, measuring done.
Oh, okay.
Tighten the brakes. We're gonna tighten the brakes.
Okay. You have the tool.
Yeah.
The rating.
Woohoo! Okay.
Oh, there was no rating.
Yeah, it's not small, it's too loose. You can try it out, yeah.
As I was telling him, you have. Yeah. Here you go. Yeah. Come on, you.
Okay.
Well.
You break it.
I'm holding it.
Not me, I'm not older.
Oh, because the brake's on, that's why.
That's the same. Yeah, that's what
It's okay, I did that the first time. I thought I completely broke the chair. It's like,
Because the brake was on.
Take the wheel off.
What's
the next one?
Oh, sorry, I
But then I
put
can't
paper
really
and
test.
take your chat.
Take it out. I can't.
Yeah, I talked about the advantages.
Adjust
A
what?
good delegator. The next thing you need to do
Yeah.
is see the floor is 16 inches. Oh, that's it, seat to floor.
Yeah, don't do too much, it will be too
So
hard.
measure from here to the ground. And one is
You do more, right?
I get 17.
so it'll be the top of here.
Let's try this.
Yeah, so it's
17.
well, it looks like 16 and 3/4.
Well, it's 17.
17.
So
So we got to bring the front end down.
I mean, I have.
It's these. It's the.
yeah. We have to take this.
So how do you determine it's too much
We need a
brake or
wrench.
not?
Here,
Okay,
here
so
we
that's
go.
not enough, right? That makes it more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to take it up one notch.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Probably.
But that, these are 1/2 inch increments, so
Yeah.
you're going up 2 holes.
Do you have a wrench? We need a wrench.
I always think something, if I can put my finger through it.
Yeah, I think the tire needs air, but.
I have a wrench.
Thanks for that.
I don't know which one.
Yeah, that's what he was
Yeah,
saying.
if you guys have any questions while you're
We
working,
got it.
let us know, we'll,
So
we'll
what
address
is
it.
it, what was the current seat to floor? Was it 17? Okay, so it has to go down an inch. And then adjust the footrest to optimal height for ground clearance.
So are we going up 1 or 2?
2.
How did the brake adjustment go?
Easy.
Fine. Serena's guidance was much appreciated.
Did you do the other side?
No, Brent did.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I did practice taking the wheel on and off, which is kind of interesting because, yeah,
Quick release. Yeah, I've worked on these a lot.
Serena has too, and I I have to admit that with her handy skills.
On the Sunshine Coast.
I'm used to these things. Okay, let's
Yeah,
see.
just let me sit in here. Let's do
Can
this.
we?
Alright. Who wants to do the other side?
But I'm healthy. I'm strong. So,
You're so strong. Okay.
so that should be okay.
I don't know. What do you think?
One little quick thing, you guys are doing it all right, so that's great. One little trick that I have found is that, you know, it really is really awkward, right? When you're trying to like, take the wheel on and off. What I do is I flip down this, flip down the casters, the anti-tippers, so that there's some kind of support there. So when I am taking off the wheel, it stays steady,
That's a
as
frame,
opposed to
yeah.
kind of like wonky,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's one little trick that you can use. But Katie was right, it's kind of like you have to have it really close in order to adjust that. She flipped this back, which gives her ample clearance. This has to be perpendicular with the ground. So I have seen things where I'm gonna just manipulate this, where it goes like that. That's not correct. It's not gonna grab the tire as much, so you have to keep it flat with the ground, okay? You're strong, and you did it, so that's great. I think that was a couple little tidbits, but overall that was great. So next side. Oh, the other brake. Unless that brake is good.
Seemed okay, I think.
Are you guys okay with that brake?
But the inside piece are so you just kind of easy enough to push.
Ideal. That's what Liz said. Adjust
What's the
Lord.
next 16 inches?
You guys have the tools for that?
Okay.
Robin, take it off.
Make sure it's got 2 inches of clearance at the bottom. Oh, you're adjusting already.
I am.
This thing, right?
It's
We have to
four,
break-
it's at 4 inches right now.
So
So we're
you gotta go
gonna,
down?
yeah.
Wait, should I put the wheel up?
The only thing you could probably swap out of these would be the brakes and the wheel.
Body is easier, take the foot pedal off.
It has to put the footrest and stuff are all, and the cap.
Oh, we're working on it without it being on the chair.
Yeah.
The other ones are all, it's going to be.
All right, so you are there, we want to go down.
2 spots?
2, I think 2. They half inch, so we're gonna have to go more than that.
Yeah, just from there.
It's 14.5.
This chair is
Let me check this one
already front and back not the same. So it depends on what the purpose of the chair. If you want your footprint clean, maybe go from front.
Easy for you to say, take it off, Serena.
Yeah, rear 216
Oh,
and front
yeah.
260.
Okay, sure. Sorry. My bad.
Doing
Yeah.
them both.
We have to
This is
That was 14.5.
yeah.
Two inches. But that's just, yeah, that's, you don't want to go lower than that. But,
That, like,
Okay, yeah, we can stop filming and try and fight with this.
Mayor distance between 2. Yeah.
like if you're coming up on a sidewalk, you can
just slide right through.
From middle
Yeah, I
here
just
to
wanted,
here.
Oh, that's way
that's gonna be too low.
2 of them's too low?
1 inch.
I went more than that.
Yeah, because now we're missing
How many did you
1.5.
go down now?
Because we need to make it 16 instead of 14.5.
Just bring it, so it was at the top?
It was at the top and going to 2
So,
holes.
go right there. It should just slide right through.
Yeah, then we'll readjust it.
That's what you think. Doesn't slide right through.
It's got threads on it. You can't slide.
All right.
That's again one.
Is that 2 inches?
Oh, here, we can just do this. Okay.
It's 2 inches at this.
So in the third one down? You're in the
Yep.
third one down?
Yeah, so it would be at the back.
Yeah, because it's angled.
Yeah.
Clearance.
It's like in your car, but you have that.
Pardon?
Measure it one more time.
You definitely want something that has to be. And it's also what-
Like
Thank you.
Right now, right? Yes, exactly.
The front, we're measuring it to the back. Oh,
But also the back.
Maybe we can do the other one, because the front.
turn the tape measure the other way.
Oh, I see. That's good.
There we
There's a reason
go.
why you're an OT.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we're done.
Somebody.
Did we win?
It wasn't a race. How did you guys feel? How did it feel? So having to wait for someone to come out and fix it or that. Yeah, it looks pretty solid. Yeah, maybe not.
We just, this is great.
Nice, yeah, and the footrest look good.
How do you measure when you say you want 80% of the body weight?
So we do when we're at GF, they have a scale, so you roll onto the scale, and then you roll back, and then you have the front wheels roll onto the scale, and then you do the percentage.
Wheel goes in.
But if you don't have that in the community,
We could do that at the market there.
yeah, you can measure, and you go on.
We have a roll.
Yeah, so
Do we
roll
want to
and
move
put
on
the
to
chair
the
on,
front
they
seat?
get the
We
weight,
did it this time.
and
Yeah,
roll
we
back,
already did
and
this time.
roll just the casters on, you'll see how much they weigh, and then from there you have to make sure that 80% is usually over the center of the wheel. The other thing you also want to consider is the connectivity and the skill level of the corner. Where did you put it?
Two down.
You have to move to the front.
They've got that knowledge of how to move forward. And the other thing is what
Here?
is their lateral control, right? If they have no control, they want here, then anything's gonna flop forward, right? So you gotta be careful with the center of gravity on there.
Right.
Yeah, you guys did a really good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Was it good set balance?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I see them moving around. Yeah. We're gonna fix this. Yeah. It's an evergreen. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then we got one last task.
Yeah, do you want to measure the back and then we'll measure the front?
Would you say 16.5? Kat?
I don't know, you have a better view than I can.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes up to there.
I don't know, measure the front then.
Okay.
I wonder if we need to adjust the casters. If we did too much on the back.
Yeah, we did it a little too high. And then,
We could go one down, but
but would it go like 15.5 instead of 16?
I know.
I think you guys did a great job. And you guys,
Why don't you measure this?
Oh, they're not even getting that far.
It's pretty flat, so.
And sometimes with those people, put that one back.
The front. Wheel out of your way.
Yeah.
Right there.
17.5.
Yeah, so when the changeover, you're gonna get a lot.
oh, we guys gave you a big one. It's adjusting both. Some people just have one. Is there time? Well, there's time. If you guys know how.
You
You wanna
ready?
do it? I don't have the.
Bench?
I think you have that.
Yeah, you probably. Oh, that's nice.
Oh, thank you.
I only have one.
No, I think it's too small. Maybe I use this. Thank you. Actually, need one more. We need another side. Because this is moving as well. If I move.
Yeah, I know. They made them light for us.
Yeah. Have one more wrench?
If you can.
Should we use our hands?
I tried. It's not working.
Oh, okay, it's not working.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Perfect.
That measures angle. You put it up against this and the bottom of it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
How many do you think we
Probably on all the chairs. 17.5 to 16, so.
Maybe two.
Do I measure from middle to middle?
What you do is bring it to the floor.
Anyway,
How many notch? 1 or 2?
middle to middle, it's half an inch.
It still does have good contour.
That one has the same kind of
I did two.
2, right? 2.
Or
see how they're.
oh, maybe to the top one actually.
Top one? Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. And then you measure from the side to side.
Go for the top one.
Okay.
You're two different bodies.
I just do not want to let the spacer go. Once I let it go, spacer will go as well. So.
I don't know. You just gotta.
Oh, shall we do it first?
Yeah.
1970 style, or actually, yes.
That's a good question. So that's something that we'll have to talk with Jill when we get back in.
Suspending in the air though.
I know. Yeah.
So where do I measure? From the
Bottom of the.
from the bottom of the wheel to here is
Oh, looks great.
16.
Okay, we just need to do that. Fine.
Like, for the all of like grade 1 kindergarten, something like this.
Yeah. Wheelchair program that has this condition that.
Probably put my lenses in them.
Okay, a few more minutes, guys, and then we'll be back in.
Middle. You should be able to go the other way. Yeah.
We can, yeah.
Yes.
We'll check with Jill. When we get back in the group, we'll check with Jill. All right, yeah.
This is the last one.
You guys are doing a good job.
Is that the right size?
Yeah, it is the right side. You just did it right.
Which part spacer?
You just pull it straight.
That's a tricky one. So.
Why don't you do
To the top.
Oh,
That's okay. That'll make your job easier than using the wrench.
Okay.
So I'll show you-
top one.
yeah, put it in.
Just give me one in there. Oh, no. You just hold it.
Okay.
Just hold it. I slide another wheel in and with this one.
Can I show you a trick?
Yeah.
So use gravity to your defense. So put
Oh,
it
yes.
in,
Smart.
and now
There we go. That's what
and then
we
put
learned
it,
today.
push it through, and then slide that one through. And usually you could do that by tweaking the fork open a little bit.
Here we go.
Yeah, and then just slide it in.
And then you.
There you go.
That's a
and then
simple
yeah,
That's a good trick.
There you go. So if you're done, let's have a seat, guys.
Do you want to do the other side?
Yeah.
Liz, you can stay sitting in it. You don't
Yeah.
So now you want to switch
Yeah, you need
this
this.
to
No,
that
no.
side.
The other
There you
side.
go. Yeah. So you see how much better it is to use the actual key that's meant for that, as opposed to using the adjustable wrench. It's more efficient for you.
Yeah. Here, there you go. Yeah, you can keep going.
And you don't want to make it too tight because
Okay.
you want this to. So a lot of the stuff that you're tightening doesn't need a lot of strength to it because it's not something that's going to come apart when you put pressure down on it, right? So this is having down force like this, so it's enough for it not to come off. Because if you tighten it going to happen is you're going to put friction on the wheel and it's not going to turn. And you're going to cause more problems than anything. All right, if we're done, let's sit down. So there was a good question during the breakout that we did.
Yes!
I did see you do that.
Oh, that's the one that you can go in.
So it can go, watch it lift. It can go under as well.
This is, it is, this is the chair, even in the same color that.
And I don't get an admission to anyway.
I don't know if you could actually fold them both at the same time.
Like it makes that would be handy for walking around.
Yes, it would be.
Instead of like having like
Let me just take them off.
Okay, so guys, let's bring it back.
I should take them off.
So that breakout was really good. What did you guys think of it?
It was good.
It was good? You already done, or something you can take away? No? It was in the facility when you get into the real world stuff on the chair, and I thought Jill might be the best person to talk to that. The question that came up from the group was, what are we allowed to fix when we're in the facility?
Thank you. Great question. Okay, so I know a lot of you come from very diverse areas of practice, okay? So if you are coming from a setting where you are working on a Vancouver Coastal Health basic wheelchair, then the answer that I would like for you all to know is call NSM if you require wrenching. Okay, so any modifications or adjustments or repairs that need to be made that requires tools, right now, because these chairs are VCH property, we do ask that you just contact NSM and they'll send out a tech to have a look at it and work on it, okay? A little bit of an exception for our friends who come from across the water, okay? And then if you are working on any other chair, so whether that be Lionsgate's fleet of chairs or VGH's or then you should have the skills and you can go for it and do those adjustments that you learned today on those chairs. And then if you're coming from like a home health context, I would say again, if they're minor changes and you feel comfortable and confident that you can do it without breaking the equipment, then go for it. Otherwise, contact the vendor as well. Yeah.
Would you think the same rules apply to the basic wheelchair program that would apply to the MEP program? Like don't touch the chair?
I don't think so. I can't speak specifically for the MEP program, but just to be safe, I would say the same rules apply. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so was there any other questions? No? Should we get into the questionnaire and prizes?
Sure.
Did Bobby mentioned there's going to be prizes here for paying attention? No? All right.
I agree.
Okay, so if you know the answer, raise your hand, and whoever answers first, obviously, we give a prize to you, right? So what is the minimum height a foot plate should be to climb rappel outside?
2 inches.
Yes.
Yay, Deanna!
Okay, we gotta make them a little tougher. Okay, so this is a little tougher one. It's a question in 2 parts. So name a thing that can happen if the foot plate is too short and too long.
If it's too short, pressure on the buttocks or the ischial tube. If it's too long, then the foot plates will drag along the curb if they use it on the street.
Okay, and what else?
Seat to floor height. There would be a problem with the seat to floor height.
Okay, so you got two of those. What I was actually looking for was you reduce your femoral contact on the leg. Okay, so that should be a prize.
I think
You got
Ricky
2 of
gets
them.
that. That's what I would have said.
Thank you.
Last one.
Okay, what happens if the caster wheels are too narrow?
Get caught in the sidewalk.
Yes.
But if they're narrow, it's easier to maneuver, right?
It is if you're inside the facility because you have less rolling resistance, so less surface on the ground. So you have decreased friction on there, but that it increases your probability of getting stuck when you go outside. Yeah.
Sometimes you can get caught in the elevator.
That's true too. That's the other thing you have to consider, right? If they turn just at that right spot, they can fall in there. Does anybody else have any questions that you may have of the basic wheelchair program of NSM or what you learned here? We didn't cover much of the cushions. The cushions that you all see are all cushions that were out there picked that go with the basic wheelchair program. They're immersive cushions that you submerge into. There's other cushions that, in later presentation we can do, we can show you the difference between an immersive cushion and an off-loading cushion. So these are all they're all the same. They got a foam gel or they got a viscose gel. They all kind of do the same thing. If you look at the literature that we handed you on the cushions, they all talk about how they straighten your pelvic and they have, some of them have grooves and it's to bring your legs in to keep your body straight and to keep yourself centered on the chair. And that's in the literature there. One of the best resources is actually the internet now and going to the vendor's website and having your sales rep, and that's what we usually do. You call us. I don't remember everything. I can't. It's impossible. So when you call me, I have to look into it and call you back, and that's what I do. I go to the internet. I look up the information so I have the correct information as opposed to thinking what I learned 3 months ago on something that I read is accurate, because these are all so familiar and they all kind of do the same thing. So that's a really good resource to fund it. And each individual is different. So each time you go back, you might want to think, okay, I know I did this, but has anything changed on the manufacturer's website? Is there anything different? Or do I remember this cushion thinking it was that cushion that did this? So that's why that's such a huge resource for you. Anything else?
I have one question.
Yes.
This is more of a cushion cover question.
Uh-huh.
So during COVID, we were told by infection control that there were certain cushion covers only that could be used for certain infections.
Okay.
I wasn't wondering if that's true or... Because we had an issue before with the cushion covers where we had to wash them and clean them, but then infection control came in saying that these are not the adequate cushion covers because they keep in moisture or something like that.
Yeah, it really depends on the manufacturer. Some manufacturers have multiple cushion covers that you can get. There are stretchy covers, so you could immerse. And then or sometimes it's a dual cover where it's a stretchy and then a quote-unquote waterproof cover. I don't know of any of the manufacturers kind of marketing it that way for infection control.
I think that maybe for infection control, what they were asking for was for something that was able to be wiped and cleaned. So maybe like an incontinent cover or something that you can wipe and clean easily.
Are these cushions being used by several different clients at the same time? That you wash it and you give it to somebody? Is that why they're asking? So it's not dedicated.
Hospital context.
Yeah, because it's not dedicated. Because usually under the base, what I understand is this is the chair that Mary gets, and it doesn't get to go to Fred or
Ricky's coming from an acute care perspective.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. The majority of the cushions that exist today have a dual cover. Stretchy outside and then a wipeable inside. So make sure you ask your vendor if that's the case. There are some where we have seen where it's a single cover only, but majority do have duals.
And also once again, you go back to the manufacturer, you go to the websites, they have instructions on all that stuff, on cleaning and the proper solvents to use and stuff. One thing I didn't mention to anybody here is that everybody thinks that WD-40 fixes everything. If you put WD-40 on these chairs, you end up really ruining them. That is meant to unlock seized bolts or steel. It's not meant as a lubricant. It actually causes the opposite. You end up tracking dirt and stuff and you grind things and it just wrecks it. Your tech will probably end up knowing what to do, but if you're there and it's squeaking, don't put WD-40 on it, it's not good. We do sell stuff like that you can get at Bike Shop, which is lube. Something like this, it's called the Tri-Flow, and this is something you would, if those wheels were squeaky a little bit, you just turn it over, you put a little bit of proper oil on it, and then that loosens it up. Putting WD-40 just ends up wrecking everything.
What about silicone? Some of the sprays have like a silicone.
Yeah, I would stay away from those silicone sprays. They also attract dust and other stuff, especially if it's a person that uses the chair outside a lot. and that's just chain oil that you get at a bike shop. It's all you really need. Any other questions, guys? Yes.
I just need some confirmation that the tension adjustable seat back is not part of the basic wheelchair.
I'll double check with you, Cynthia, okay?
Yeah.
The only, for these ones, no, but I'm not sure about the new, the red chair, the key mobility one, so I'll double check for you, yeah.
Okay.
Useful information for.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, we thank everybody for coming. I think that depending on the success on this, and if people have interest, that Bobby, you could probably speak to this, is we'll probably be expanding it to other stuff that you might want to learn, and other sessions that could interest you, that we could educate on, and I think it's great that as vendors and clinicians, we can share our knowledge, because that way we grow together, because when we're doing this, it's a collaboration between you and us, and working together with the client to get the right equipment so that they can live their life better than we all saw. So
Certainly, we
all
would
learn
love
from
your
each other.
feedback, so
Yeah.
you can send it to Tristan. Tristan's contact is in that
Yeah.
folder. You can send it to Jill, she can relate to us. The more we know, the better we can get.
We want to learn about this. If Jill gets enough people saying that they want to learn about this, she can reach out to us to see if.
So if you have any other ideas for education opportunities like this in the future, you can contact me or your other go-to clinical resource therapist. And then we all talk and we can make it happen for you, because there was high demand for this one, and which is why we went on YouTube, because there was a bunch of people who have been tuning in. Oh, sorry. Yes, Joe, you want me over here. If you have any other ideas for education opportunities, come speak with me. Feedback to me or Bobby or Tristan. Or to your clinical resource therapist. But we really appreciate you coming, and this was so great. Thank you.
Thank you. One quick thing, we have trifolds if you guys want to take some for your facility, that's fine. There's business cards. And of course, everybody's a winner today. Smaller ones, but thank you so much for coming, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, there's two. So which one is the jobber two? Is it green? Hold on. If I take